Alrighty, welcome everyone to Cooking with the Rabbi. I always wanted to say that. It's exciting to be here with you to share this particular recipe, and because it's not a super complicated recipe, there will be also some time for schmoozing and some time for telling a little bit the story of my great-great-grandmother, Annie Garber Kagan, who we have this recipe from and kind of how it was transmitted to me. But first, we're going to get some things going on the stove. So you have the recipe available to you. I believe we sent it out, but I will just go ahead and list the things as I do them so that everyone is clear. Here, let's adjust here so you can see as I put them in the pot. It's a very high budget effort, obviously. So we have our first four ingredients on the list. We have 1 cup of water. Ooh. Half a cup of margarine or butter, so just throw in a whole stick. These are not healthy, I should note, by the way. There is zero claim that this is healthy in any way for you or for anyone who you serve it to. I will say these pair really well with chicken soup, so if you're doing that, margarine is preferred. But if you are not pairing them with chicken soup, they're definitely better with butter. We're then going to do 2 tablespoons of sugar. 2. And then 1 teaspoon of salt, which does not have to be kosher salt. That's just the salt that I pulled off the shelf. I usually use just like Morton's or, whatever salt, but this was, what we had, and it's spilling, and that's fun. Okay, a teaspoon of that. And salted butter, unsalted butter, salted margarine, you just use your judgment. I'm not, picky about that. So I am then going to put all of that, pua. I'm going to put all of that on the stove to start cooking together. Those 4 things, just real simple: butter, water, salt, sugar. And then while that starts cooking, I'll tell you a little bit about Annie Garber Kagan. So Annie Garber Kagan, or as she went by Nana, was my, as I said, great-great-grandmother. So she was born in the old country, Lithuania, and okay, I have to get the story right. Her father ran away from her mother with the butcher's daughter. And they kind of got married and left, and they had a kid. And so they ran off with their kid to America, but they wanted to bring someone with them to look after the kid. So I wouldn't say she was kidnapped necessarily, but she was basically taken along as the babysitter for the kid by her father and his father's mistress, who became their wife. So they moved to America. They moved to Boston, which is where my mom's side of the family is from. And she what I know of her as a kid, from what I've heard, is she really liked riding roller coaster. That was a big part of her early life. But she persevered through kind of this experience of coming to America. She ended up actually helping to bring her sister over as well. And her sister has a I believe great-granddaughter, or maybe just great-granddaughter. It's 1 generation off, who's also a conservative rabbi, Amelia Wolf, over in Arlington, Virginia, who were good friends. So there's a funny family connection there, because I was telling this story, and she goes, wait, that's the story that I know about. And so we figured out that we were cousins because of this story. So that's fun. But so Nana, she was industrious. She was good in the kitchen. She did all these things. But she was from the old country. She didn't cook with cups and tablespoons and teaspoons and all of these things. So then her daughter, B. Garber, didn't really cook very much. My great-grandmother, she had other people do that for her. But my grandmother, Ming, or Leslie, did like to cook. And so she wanted to preserve some of these recipes, included among them the Matzah Popovers. So just one sec. Let me check to see how this is doing. Just a little stir. And I will also say that this recipe makes 7 to 10 popovers. When I'm making it, I'm usually at least doubling it because, you're cooking for seders or bigger things. So I'm just making a single batch here, but it's easy to double. It just, you just multiply. It's none of that is difficult. But so my grandmother, Leslie or Ming, she watched Nana cook. And she would do the thing where she would, Nana would grab a handful and Ming would stop her and measure it and see how much it was. Or she'd, put a little bit of water and she'd stop, before you put it on the boil, let me, measure and see how much it is. And so that's how we got this recipe, among a few others that are passed down from Nana to our family. So it's a really cool thing. It's a thing that it's meaningful to me both because I think these are delicious, but also because it really connects me to my family and especially to Nana. Who went through so much to come here and kept cooking and kept doing her thing, and now we have her recipes and we have her love that we eat with these beautiful spongy delicious treats. Now the idea of a matzah popover is a little silly when I tell people about this. That I was talking with, I think it was Tom, was saying he had some popovers at Acadia National Park, and when we think of popovers, right, they're these big, puffy things. So how do you? Yes, good girl, Pua. So how do you have a Passover, a kosher Passover popover? And the key is really basically you're cooking with matzah meal instead of flour, and then it's a lot of egg and a lot of butter. There's not like I wish it was a better secret than that, but really the secret is just that they're not very healthy. And so but one thing that I was talking to someone, she was saying, is there baking powder? Are there different things? No, because those are not kosher for Passover, that we're not using any of those leavening tricks to try to get these things to puff up. It's really just the eggs and the butter that are doing it. And as you'll see, one of the things that's really important about the recipe is that each egg is beaten individually and really kind of fluffed up and then put in. So you don't put all the eggs together and do it. It's individual egg fluffing, putting in, folding in, egg fluffing, putting in, folding in. And that helps to create the circumstance such that it can puff up and pop over. Oh, yeah, that's boiling. So just 1 second. So you're just bringing those ingredients together to a boil. They do not have to boil for any significant period of time. So that can be over high heat, medium heat, whatever you want. But you're just bringing it to a boil and then removing it from the heat and then just stirring to make sure that the butter gets fully subsumed into that. Yeah, that looks good. So we had 1 cup of water, half a cup of butter. Now we're going to put in 1 cup of matzah meal. And we're going to mix that in 30. So we're just removing from the heat. It doesn't have to cool off a lot. It can cool off a little bit. But we have here Manischewitz with their new branding with the matzah meal. I have to say I love the Manischewitz rebrand. This is not a paid advertisement for Manischewitz. I just happen to really like their rebrand. And they've been doing some fun promotional stuff. There's now the college sports people can have these NIL deals, name, image, and likeness, where they can sign endorsements. And the quarterback for Brigham Young University, Jake Retzlaff, is Jewish, the Mormon school, BYU. And so he calls himself BY Jew, and he signed an endorsement deal with Manischewitz. And I thought it was just the funniest thing in the world. So we're going to get 1 cup of matzah meal here. And again, because, this is just, we're going off of Nana's, handfuls and things. So if it's not exactly exact, it's okay. It's not I know baking is very, more a science than an art, but this is old country baking. So it's a little bit more okay to be a little bit less. And so then here, I'll angle this down while I'm stirring in. I'm just, adding and stirring, wanting to get what's the word I'm looking for? Consistent consistency? No, that's not the right word. Regular consistency, an even consistency. I don't know, anyone else can feel free to chime in if you have the word I'm looking for, but just 1 cup of matzah meal. Nice and easy. Then you want to stir, make sure there's no dry spots. By the way, your oven, I know none of you are cooking along with me right now, but if you are watching this and you are cooking along, your oven you're going to want to preheat to 415 is what you're going to be starting at. It's one of those recipes where you start at one temperature and then you bring it down to another. My oven is currently going with the batch that I have in because I'm a good chef and host of a cooking show, so I'll have the batch to pull out when I finish this one. I know, you're all very impressed. But so we're stirring this, and then eventually should look like so. Just kind of stirred up matzah meal, butter, salt and sugar. It's fairly like, I would say not exactly a doughy it's kind of a doughy consistency would be a reasonable thing. It's like it's like it almost looks like kind of glutinous. Like it looks like kind of like I don't know. Yeah, doughy. It's like a loose dough, crumbly dough, but also kind of wet, if that makes sense. So now we come to the important part, the eggs. Also the expensive part these days. So there's 3 eggs per batch. I am using the leftover eggs from what I bought to make the Hamantaschen at KI. And then a thing about kashrut of eggs, if you weren't aware, traditionally in a kosher home, we crack each egg individually into a clear glass to check it before we put it in. So in this case, we're doing things to each egg individually anyway, but we crack our egg, check to make sure there's no blood spots. Ooh. And then just put it into a bowl, and then looks like I got a couple of shell pieces. That's not good. Okay, and then the beating each egg, it says, so on the recipe that, has been handed down, it says beat each egg individually until fluffy. What exactly does fluffy mean? Different people have I usually just use a fork. You can also use a whisk. You don't have to, if you really want to get in it, go immersion blender, go, hand beater, whatever you want. But really it's basically just like what I was taught by my mom is it's like you beat it until it's fluffy enough that you would put it on for scrambled eggs or an omelet or something. So depending on how fluffy you insist on your omelets being, you can beat the egg, more or less. So I give it a good beating. I make sure it's, nice and fluffy, but I'm not it's not like you're looking for stiff peaks or anything like that. It's not like you're not beating it to the point of I don't know, over the topness. So just, whipping it around, and then you're done. Pour it in, stir it up. And again, by this point, the pot that you're using should have cooled enough that you're not going to just cook this egg on contact. You can also transfer the liquid to another bowl if you are worried about that. If you are worried about the egg getting it all cooked on contact, but really you should be pretty fine with that. But you can especially if you're making larger quantities of this, it can be helpful to transfer the whole thing into a separate bowl to do the mixing. So that is egg number 1. Egg number 2. Check it. Pour it. This is also a more fun thing to do with multiple people because then someone's coming on. When you're doing this with multiple people, then one person can be beating each egg while you're stirring the other one in, and that just makes life easier and more fun, so that you're not having to wait in between each one. But it's not the mixture is not being hurt by sitting there for a couple of minutes while I'm beating the egg. Hello. So, for those who are just joining, we boiled some water and butter and salt and sugar together. We are now taking each egg and beating individually until fluffy, which, as I said, I think my mom once described to me as just as much as you would beat it until you would put it in for scrambled eggs or an omelet. So for some people that's going to be fluffier than others, but you can use a whisk. I use a little fork, and then you just dump each one in. Stir it up. And you really want to make sure that you're stirring each egg in completely in between each one. So if it takes a couple of seconds, again, if you're cooking with someone else, then that other person can be, starting to beat the next egg. But it is really good to make sure to really stir the egg in, because that's the point of adding them one at a time, is that the egg isn't just sitting there kind of gloopily, but it's actually getting stirred into the matzah with the fluffiness that you've beaten into it, which again is going to help that. pop. That's going to help that pop over. I say these things like I know what I'm talking about. So egg number 3. Okay. So we're gonna beat egg number 3. Da, 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 da. This is exactly what I thought I would be doing when I went to rabbinical school. Oh, it's getting toasty in the kitchen here. All right, there's egg number 3. I'm gonna mix that up. And then you are gonna get a muffin tin. You do not need a specific popover tin for these. If you have a specific popover tin, great, power to you. I do not have a specific popover tin. They do make them that are like they're extra deep so that they can kind of like shoot up. Maybe one day that will be a fun gift or something that I will get for myself or someone will get for me. But we usually just use a regular muffin tin. There was one really funny time when we were going to be buying my mom a Mother's Day present, or like various things around the kitchen that she always says she wants but doesn't have. And one of them was, because we make these popovers, we make them in large batches, like one, the muffin tins that can make like 24 or whatever, the like really big ones. And I was in charge of ordering that, and I ordered it off Amazon, and I did not pay close enough attention. And I ordered one that had lots of little mini muffin tins, and that is just really not applicable for these popovers. Does not work at all. So make sure to get the full size muffin tins if you are doing that. Because my dairy muffin tin is currently in the oven, I am going to be trying to use this one, which we also purchased kind of on a whim, that has these extra large things. So the recipe will generally make 6 to 9 or 7 to 9, I think is what it says on the recipe per batch. I think my batch in there has 8. But it is but it'll make a few less in here because these are larger tins. But the dough at this point, the batter as it were, should definitely be a smoother, creamier texture because you've added 3 eggs. So you can kind of see as I stir here. You want that kind of like creamy. It should still be good. Like it should still stick together. It shouldn't be creamy in the sense of like liquid, but it should be kind of a nice goop. You want to get a good plop when you lift it up. So it is very important to grease your pan. So whether you just take a stick of butter and run it around, I'm using pan because it's not actually Passover yet, so I can do that. But whatever it is, these will stick to the pan if you do not grease it up. So, that got Pua's attention. All right. Then looks like I still have 20 minutes on the one in the oven, so it might just be hanging out for a little while here. I tried to time it, but you get here after minyan and yada yada yada. So I am going to go ahead and load this up here. Let me move down here so I can show myself doing this. What are you licking up the pan? Dogs are so weird. So I'm just gonna gloop it in here. These are gonna make some extra large popovers. I have no idea how that's gonna go, but neither will you because the show will be over by the time these are all done. So ask me when you come and see me in Shul how the extra large popover experiment went. But I'm gonna load this tin up here. Oh, and because these are popovers, they will pop up, so you do not want to fill over the line at all. In fact, you want to be a little bit under the line of the muffin tin, because otherwise you will get popover explosion, which, while it sounds really fun, is actually not super helpful. So you want to stay... Clearly, it's not good for you, Pua. So why are you still eating it? Dogs. So you definitely want to stay under the line So this will only make 4 of the extra larges, which makes sense. And now we just have some time to chat and hang out and schmooze while the popovers that are in the oven finish. Oh, and Ariana's home, so she can come say hi. How fun! And you'll get to see Rav will come and say hi. These will be Rav's first popovers. We're very excited for that. Hey, Susan. My mother-in-law is also here. But yeah, before I bring everyone else in, any questions on anything you've seen so far? I know it's a fairly straightforward recipe, but anything, Meredith, you unmuted?
I have what may be a really dumb question,
Oh, good. I love
but
really dumb.
you said something about the Pam and it's not Passover, so that's okay. Is Pam not kosher for Passover?
So regular Pam is not kosher for Passover, actually, because regular Pam
Okay.
has
I've never looked, and
right.
so
So it
that's
has
brand new
canola
information.
and soy, which are both ketniote. So if you eat
Oh,
ketniote,
okay.
regular Pam, as long as you're okay with it not being labeled kosher for Passover, is okay.
Okay.
But if you are not a household that does ketniote, so soy, canola, all of those things, there are
I
specific kosher
gotcha.
for Passover cooking sprays that you can get, or you can just use margarine or butter to grease the pan.
Okay.
Either way works. But no, regular Pam is kosher for Passover for people who eat ketniote if you're okay with it not having a specific Passover symbol on it. That
Okay.
I'm aware of, there's no Pam branding that has it. There's kosher cooking sprays that specific. There are both cooking sprays that are kosher for the rest of the year, and then there are also specific cooking sprays that are made that are used that are specifically kosher for Passover. But that's a great question.
Okay. I thought
Also,
maybe you were using like the spray flower kind, because
No,
there
I'm
is
not
like
using the
this.
spray flower.
Okay. Okay, because I'm okay with Kitnio because I'm already vegetarian. So, okay, I wasn't
I'm
aware.
not sure what ketniote has to do with vegetarianism, but we'll get to that in one second. I think Pamela
Well,
had a question.
I
oh,
can
actually,
explain
it's
more, but
there's 3 of us here. It's Lauren, Pamela, and Val.
Oh, great.
We're all just watching it on Pamela's iPad. I was just gonna say also beware certain margarines because I know a lot of margarines use like soy oil.
Yes,
So if you don't eat kitnio either, like just beware your margarine.
correct. Margarine is kosher Passover margarine. If you do not eat ketniote, is one of the harder things to find. So as I mentioned before, if you're making this to go along with chicken soup, which Meredith, I know you will not be because you are vegetarian, but if you are making it to go along with chicken soup, then locating your kosher Passover margarine option early is an important thing to do, because that is definitely one of the harder things to find. But again, if you are not eating it with meat, I do recommend butter. I think they're just more delicious that way. Also, because kosher Passover margarine is usually gross. Just to be honest.
And expensive. Oh my
And
God, it's
expensive, yes.
expensive.
Other serving suggestions for the popovers, while we're just schmoozing about them. They're really good if you heat them up in the microwave for just like 5 to 10 seconds, and then put a little charoset or butter or margarine in the middle. Really delicious. My mom is a big fan of the charoset popover sandwich. And really they're like a muffin, so you can eat them with anything. But the number one serving suggestion is along with the soup. They soak up the soup. They become even more delicious. Because they are also, I should note, if you don't heat them up a little bit, they are very dense. Like because again, it's just like egg and butter and matzo meal and water. So if you just like nosh one down cold, like if you just like if it's cold and you're just like eating it, like you will like feel it going down. Like it is a dense piece of food. But if you get it hot, if you warm it up a little bit, if you dip it in the soup, if you like moisten it, it is so good. Amatzia amachaya. How you doing, Ariane? Okay, great. May Rav will come and make an appearance and say hello in a moment, because I know that's what you all really want. Do any of you have any Passover foods that are particularly meaningful to you that you cook every year? No. Leslie, nothing from you?
Nothing that I can think of. I try to make different kinds of carosis.
Oh, that's fun. What's one interesting, unique charoset that you've made?
Well, we have a Sephardic based one that's things that I wouldn't eat that you mush together. But it's really good. Everyone seems to enjoy it.
Nice.
Is it the dates? Is it the dates that you won't eat?
Well, there's dates and there's several other things in there. I'm not a big apricot eater. I kind of throw everything in.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's tasty.
Yeah, I mean, mushed together. If you don't know what's in it, it's very good.
It's true. It's true. My family every year makes these like lamb rib things that's also delicious. But
Lamb
sourcing
ribs?
kosher lamb here is really difficult. So
Yeah, wow.
yeah,
That I would love to have lamb ribs on Passover. That sounds
yeah,
great.
yeah. Well, I mean, we try to do like my parents get really into it sometimes where they like really want every piece of the like Seder menu to like represent something from like the story, which
Oh,
is really
that's really
cool.
cool.
Yeah. So like for example, like the meat is obviously like, lamb because it's traditional. Ah, baby. Is she in her grabby phase now?
She is in her grabby phase now. Hey, Mirav, can you say hi to everybody?
She has a racing Louisville shirt.
She does. Well, they're playing right now.
I love that.
I don't know how to get it on. That's why I texted you.
Use our Xfinity login. I will do
Yeah.
it later. But so sorry. So Lauren, can you so the meat like lamb, but what else? Can you share some of the other?
Oh
interesting
yeah.
things y'all make?
So like they do like a 10 plagues salad where like each thing that's in the salad like represents something about like one of the plagues. I'm trying to think of some other things that like we do the Sephardi charoset because we all think the apples are kind of gross. It's, like I'm trying to think of like some other things. So we do like a leek soup course because like you use leeks as part of like the store, like in the Dayenu. And then I'm trying to think like some other things. I don't know. I'm kind of drawing a blank right now. I have to like text my parents and be like, what is the course for this year? The menu this year. I mean, I'm not going, but because it's like at a weird time this year. So last year I was able to like sneak out and it was fine. But anyway.
Yeah.
My sister makes a Moses and the bulrushes. People might do that, but like it's a big production. She gets the eggs and she puts like a filter. She boils the eggs, takes out the yolk, puts a gefilte fish in there, puts eyes, makes bulrushes out of peppers and celery, and
Wow.
it's a whole scene.
That's impressive.
Our house is currently, we do not serve a gefilte fish course because no one who lives here likes gefilte fish. Yeah, you might one day, but you don't. Okay, Ariane says that she likes gefilte fish. She doesn't like to make it. But I am staunchly anti-gefilte fish. So we do not do a gefilte fish course.
It's okay. I'm also staunchly anti-gefilte fish because I like for my food to have flavor.
I just like, to me, like cold fish hot dogs doesn't sound like freedom.
I agree. Yes.
I like taking it to school for lunch and watching the teachers watch me eat it. Good way to clear a.
There you go.
But you still have to eat it. Like
I eat it though.
Doesn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You do that.
I'm just going to step away for 1 second to help with something. I'll be right back. I'm going to mute. All right, we are 5 minutes from popover time. I will say it's my first batch of the year, so we'll reserve too much judgment. But it doesn't look like they're popping over quite as much as I would anticipate. But it's an art, not a science. And you will. I recommend trying it out once before the big day. But you should get part of the thing is, and some of this also is a margarine versus butter thing, that the butter ones will often be a little bit more flat top, like almost look like kind of just like muffiny, whereas the margarine ones, for whatever reason, will often get kind of more like peaky. I also will say that sometimes, and I think this might be the case, is you might want to over add matzah meal, that you might want to put in a little bit of extra matzah meal. Because if it's too dense, if it's too gloopy, it's not gonna puff up as much. So I think these might have been a little on the wet side, and they might have needed a little bit more matzah meal to just like dry it out just a little bit to let it pop up. Yes. Do you hear Pua? Do you hear Pua over there? Is she playing with Ima? But they're, whether or not they pop up a ton or just a bit, and whether or not they're flat topper or spiky, they are always delicious because they're butter and sugar and eggs and water and mozzarella. Like, it's tough to mess up too badly. Yeah, how you doing? How you doing? Does anyone have any other Passover or Seder questions on their mind? Tom, Noelle was telling me that y'all were gonna do your some Seder prepping today.
We did. We got ordered some Haggadot, and then went through and worked on some like cocktails and drinks. Grain neutral spirits is everywhere. That was the takeaway today. So that kind of things that surprised us, that like bitters, we're going to use some bitters and some things, and the alcohol base in bitters is grain neutral spirits. So that was so to find some. But we got a bunch of great cocktails.
Can you tell us some of the cocktails you're planning?
All right, Noel, do you remember them?
He picked one that was like a Amaro based. So Amaros that use grappa, so fruit based alcohol as their base. So they vary a lot, and actually it has 2 of them in it, and we have to taste test the second one. The first one we taste tested, it was delicious by itself, so it'll be good in whatever. But then I don't remember all the ingredients, but we found a website where a guy created 10 plagues, like 10 different cocktails, one that represents each of the plagues.
Oh my goodness.
And so we decided that when we get to that part of the service, we're going to make everybody pick, like after we go through them, make everybody pick a plague, and then they have to get that cocktail and try that cocktail. And I'll like make them all ahead of time, and then that'll give us plenty of time to like talk and about like whatever we decide our questions are going to be in that session for folks to process them, but like small portions, because that there's a lot of wine and they'll already have a welcome cocktail. So so that was fun. Like most of them sound kind of like they might not be great, so it'll definitely be like funny and an interesting thing to do.
Yeah,
I love that. I mean, right, they're plagues. They're not supposed to necessarily be delicious.
Exactly.
But I think we're good. Like the welcome cocktail, I think is going to have like an apple brandy and like the Amaro that's kind of bitter. So it'll be kind of like this is maybe a stretch, but like a halal sandwich in a cocktail with like the bitter and the kind of the apple. Yeah. So
that's what we were going for.
So
we did find also a website called The Sipping Seder, and they had I had a bunch of different cocktail ideas. Although some of them had bourbon, and I'm like, hello, no. But there was one called Harosa that was just like a vodka, and what else did I have? And vermouth and stuff like this. So we went down our cocktail based rabbit hole for part of our planning.
Yeah.
That sounds like a delightful part of planning.
It was a lot of fun, and do a little taste testing here and there. So that was good too. So it was a good way to spend a Sunday morning.
That's wonderful. Alrighty, well, these popovers are going to come out, so I am going to pass Meirav off, so I'm not opening the oven and grabbing popovers and doing all that with child in hand. Excuse me. Alrighty, moment of truth. And then not very much. Oh, I wonder what I did wrong. Wonder if it's our All right, so I'm gonna just give me 1 second. Alrighty, so we're gonna try to pop one of these out of here. Whew. So you can see here, looks a little muffiny. Usually they'll get more of a bit of a popped crown. So who knows what I did wrong? Could be the humidity, could be, oven temperature. I am no great expert, but I'm sure it will still be delicious. I would try it, but I would probably burn myself if I tried to open it up and eat it that quickly. You're just gonna want to let them sit for a little bit. But yeah, that's Matzah Popovers. They are pretty delicious. They're pretty great. I will just pop it open so that you can kind of see the inside. Hot. Knife. Oh yeah, that's very dense. So usually, no, there's some popover in there. Usually it's a little bit, like you can see there's kind of layering. Usually you get a little bit more air pockets in there. But clearly this one did not puff up that much. Again, could be a humidity thing. It is very humid today. And I'm just going to use that as an excuse because I heard it on Great British Baking Show before. But you want the inside to look kind of, like this, usually just a little bit more open with a little bit more air holes, showing some of that poppage. So thank you for joining for Cooking with the Rabbi. I hope that you have amazing Seders. Please continue to send me questions. And next week we have our last class in the series, which is Songs of the Seder with Cantor Horty. So we hope you'll join us for that as well. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Rabbi.
you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you.